welcome back to my channel. I hope you're well. I am well aware we're like mid-February by the time I'm filming this. It's been hella busy, but I just wanted to go through all the books I read in January. So yes, I get it, it's a bit belated. I was just going to jump straight in with all the books I read, and it starts with 2 DNFs, and I'll tell you why. Well, I'll try to. First one was Sadly Both of You by Adele Parks. I don't know what it is, but this year I was like, right, one of my ins and outs is if I'm not enjoying a book, don't force myself to read it and make time for the ones I want to read. And this one, I just couldn't connect with any of the characters. I think I got, 50 pages in, if that, and I just thought a lot of the dialogue was really slow. It's my first experience with Adele Parks, and I just wasn't vibing with it. I had many other books. Oh, I should explain this. This is my 12 for 2024, and I thought, even though this setup is quite nice and I've not used it before, I needed a bit of colour, so that's why that is there. It is precariously on the sofa arm, so I'm just going to keep an eye on that. But back to this, one of my outs was not continuing with the books I'm not enjoying, so sadly DNF that. I'm open to trying more of her other ones, like this, Just My Luck. Sounds really interesting to do with the lotto, money, my kind of thing. Number 2 is Animals by Emma Jane Unsworth. Now, I was surprised by this because I specifically got this on eBay, I remember. I was like, that sounds good, really fun and quite crazy, and I know there's a Channel 4 adaptation as well. I can't find it anywhere to watch it. It's got Holiday Granger in it, who I adore. She is like such a good actress. And I also enjoyed her second novel, which I read like May 2 or 3 years ago, called Adults. And that I just found really just dry humour, and I really enjoyed it. So I thought, okay, if this is the same, I'm going to enjoy it as well. But it's based on these two, I can't even remember their names, what is it? Laura and Tyler. And it's just basically following them in their youth, I guess. One of them engaged, the other's a bit unruly, not put in a box, which is fair enough. But I just found it really, like, it was kind of trying too hard. I know some people really enjoy this, but I don't know, on this occasion, I really wasn't feeling it, which is quite sad. But I do want to reread her other book, Adults, like I mentioned. Not much else to say on those, just because I did DNF them, but I thought I'd now just go straight into the books I did read. It was a really slow start, I'm not going to lie, after the DNFs. And then I read on my Kindle how nice is this, by the way? I got it on Amazon. It was really nice. And I got an ARC, which is an advanced reader copy through NetGalley. Now, this is my first experience, I think. So I signed up, I said, I've got this blog, I was approved. And then I got a book. It was Your Perfect Life by Victoria Jenkins. Now, this is by the publisher Buchanan. They also did The Housemaid, which I really enjoyed. I read that in like 2 or 3 days when I was in Greece. I put it in my last video, I think. And this one, I was like getting the same vibes at the start because it's between 2 women from different perspectives. And clearly something isn't right. I don't know if I suspected like an unreliable narrator between either of them. I can't remember the women's names, but they're cousins. One is more obsessed with the other, and the other's like, I don't really remember them, but hey ho. So one works for a radio, and the other is just going about her day, just trying to get through. She's a cleaner, then she gets sacked, down to a violent situation. And you wonder, like, what kind of past is this? And it follows them as the other becomes more obsessed. She infiltrates her life even more. She comes into it. And then, I don't know what it was, but as I was reading, I just felt I was missing a few chapters. And I don't know if it was like missing that character development. And then it suddenly switches, but like not in the kind of way that makes you like go really surprised, like, oh my gosh, this is so good. But I was just confused when it like swapped to a next chapter, and then something just dramatically changed. I'm like, hold on, this literally came out of nowhere. Not like unexpected, but like I was just beguiled. I didn't really understand what was happening and why this happened. And one of them has a stalker, and then it all goes downhill from there. I had high hopes for this book, and the cover did really appeal to me as well. But it was an alright first experience. It wasn't my favourite arc, but I've read a few more. They're very good, and The List of Suspicious Things was on there too. But this one, it just wasn't really my cup of tea, but I'm glad I read it. Like I said, a slow start, but this next one was not. Next one kind of came out of the blue, and I got it on a Kindle offer. It is Strong Female Character by Fern, Brady. Now, she is a comedian, and she is basically going through, it's kind of a memoir going through her life as an undiagnosed autistic woman. Because it is based on her real life, I don't think it's fair to like judge or put a rating to this, but it's very like witty and funny and like dry humour, and just really informative as well, showing you that autism is mainly detected in boys because the spectrum was based on boys' behaviours when they're young, when they're growing up. But it's not so much in girls. It's just seen as like, oh, they're just difficult and awkward. Whereas as she's got older, she's learned more about herself, about the diagnosis, and how on Taskmaster she was actually able to be more of herself. Yeah, I really, really enjoyed this. I raced through it. Like, I looked forward to reading it on my Kindle. Yeah, I don't know much more about her, but She's from Scotland. Bathgate, I think, is the place. And she just details her relationship with her family and how charming her mum specifically. She had an average relationship with her parents, but how her mum always knew something wasn't quite right with Fern, but she let her explore herself as well, how she was obsessed with languages. Like, she would learn like Arabic, French, Spanish, Italian, all those kinds, and then her verbs to the point, and like write on her wall and stuff just to get it out. And her behaviors, like, it was crazy just learning and reading about that, and how her mind works, and how she has someone else explain to her from the outside. So yeah, really good, really fascinating too. Next one I've seen everywhere on the tube on my commute, and it is Cat Lady by Dawn O'Porter. Now, I've put on my Instagram before that I read her previous one, So Lucky, which was really good. It was so unexpected. I really enjoyed it. Similarly with this one, it is just full of wit, and it follows Mia. She's a cat lady. She's got her own cat called Pigeon, and she's married to, I think his name's Tristan. Mia is his second marriage. He has a shared son with his previous wife, Belinda, and it is just a mess. Crossover mess. Mia is clearly obsessed with her cat Pigeon. She thinks the world of her. She is her baby. And Mia also has a dilemma at work. She works for a jewelry company. She actually does her work, but people think she is quite cold. And we learn more about Mia as this goes on, how she is obsessed with having her own room and doesn't sleep in the same room as her husband, despite having a really healthy sex life, should we say. But then when she finds Tristan doing something, her life kind of spirals from there, and it's how she reacts to that. She goes on a bender, she takes her cat with her. I'll say no more. But this is meant to not fit with a typical cat lady stereotype. Like, Mia is super organized, super clean, and just wants everything in her own way, but then as soon as it gets out of control is how she copes with that. Next one I got from the library, and on actually a recommendation from my boyfriend, because he would not stop going on about it. I was like, fine, I will read it. It is sci-fi, so I was not expecting to like this at all. However, I've seen many good things about this. I've seen very good ratings as well, people raving about it on YouTube as well, not many women reading it. And yeah, when I've seen it described as The Hunger Games, and I can't remember what else he described it as, I think Star Wars, it is Red Rising by Pierce Brown. Going into this with no expectations, I was properly absorbed into the story. It's set in the future, we've colonized Mars, we're making it our own. But when I say the Hunger Games element, so your Star Wars is you're in space, but your Hunger Games element is, I guess you've got your districts, but in here you've got the reds, the golds. I'm sure there are other colours as well, but mentioned so far in this one book of the series, which is huge, I mustn't forget. We follow Darrow. He's working in the mines as a red, which is seen as like the low of the low. They're doing the dirty work, they're at more risk of death, whereas the golds, they're the leaders and stuff, so I guess you could say like your Pan Am of the Hunger Games. It's not too much of a spoiler as it starts at the very beginning, where Darrow and his wife, Io, something happens to her and then it all escalates from there. And let me tell you, I have never read a book that is so fast paced, as in like it defeats all the, I guess, expectations of time when you're writing a novel. Like, you know when you start a chapter and it says like 3 years later or this many weeks later, this one it can say something about getting results. We expected them in 4, we get them in 2. And then it's just like in those few words, so much time has passed. And I think it spans like, I don't know if it's like a year or 2 years or something. It is crazy. And it's following Darrow as he tries to, I guess, infiltrate the Gold Network. But he's in like this game thing with other people, and he soon finds out maybe not all of them are as they say they are, and they're not golds. So the golds have ruined their lives, they've made it pretty unbearable for the reds, and now Darrow wants revenge. I won't lie, I was a bit confused with all the like sayings they have, and then the laws, and then all that goes with it, and then the whole games as well, and then the war and conflict. But Pierce Brown really keeps you on edge, and 2 describes just like the things they have involved, like the equipment, and then anti-grav boots or something like that, and their capes. Just this isn't like extravagant, but I've never read anything quite like this. Just down to the detail that makes it still so compelling whilst having that detail. I'm not really sure, but yeah, I did enjoy this. I'm not in a rush to read the second one, as much as my boyfriend keeps poking me to do it, but I've got a few other books to read. Yeah, Sci-Fi is not the one, but this could be the start of me converting. I have a few more to go, but next up I got in my 66 books haul back in October, I think it was, and it is Rosewater by Liv Little. This I saw just sat on my shelf just staring at me, and I was like, I'll just give it a read. I consumed this in like 3 or so days. It's set in London. It follows Elsie. She's just been kicked out of her flat and she has nowhere to go, so her friend takes her in. I love books that are set in London, and I've just finished one back here that is set in London too. And I don't know what it is, but I think it's because you're following so many walks of life, different people, and no one knows what's going on. They're just living it, just as Elsie is. She wants to write poetry. She's just jumped from job to job, from bars and stuff, and I think she's just lost her latest one. Again, not a spoiler. And it's set in, it basically follows like her in the queer community, because she's slept with different women, but there's one that specifically stands out. But it's like, what if you can't have that love? But oh my gosh, when I say like I love this was a proper 5 stars for me. Just easy, and it was just really easy to read as well, really beautifully written. Yeah, I just love the story. It's like a traditional love story, but in a queer folk sense. So yeah, really enjoy this. And if you just love the whole diversity and the culture difference and learning about that from someone's perspective, then I'm sure you will enjoy this too. Really love this. Next one is No Escape by Lucy Clarke. I think I mentioned either here or on my Instagram that I was reading this, mainly because I just got Paramount Plus, which is where they've done an adaptation of this, and I was like, I started watching it, I was like, whoa, hold on, I need to read the book first. I'm so glad I did, because now I don't want to watch the series. As I've said, I really don't like adaptations because they most likely do them really poorly, because they did that with The Castaways, and I love the book so much. And I love this as well. It follows 6/7 young adults in the Philippines, but mainly Kitty and Lana, but between different time differences. We start with Lana in the present, where it's just her. She's left the boat called the Blue, which is what this book was previously published as. And we wonder, like, what happened? Why isn't she on the boat anymore? Because we soon learn they're having the time of their lives, her and her best friend Kitty. They found these guys who were on the boat, and they were like, yeah, come aboard. We're traveling from here to here in the Philippines. And it just sounds pretty mesmerizing. Young, carefree, you're on the sea, you're in the sun, and you got nothing to worry about. But then you're like, why is Lana on her own? What's happened? Until we realise the boat's gone missing and people on it too. So yeah, I love the whole back and forth between this. Really keeps you on your toes and really like scratching your head as to like, logistically, this is how I work. Logistically, how on earth did this happen? But then obviously you find out in the end why things happened, how they did. I'm not gonna lie, the end left me feeling pretty sad, and it was just really eerie, and I was like, OMFG, just this is why I hate the sea. She makes it so just mesmerizing, but so dark as well. I love the bond she tells between Lana and Kitty, and then we find out the true meaning of their sisterhood, as well as with the other friends on the boat. Really enjoyed this, really fast paced. I think this is like the 3rd or 4th novel of Lucy Clarke's I've read, and she just doesn't disappoint. They're geographically based or location set novels, but yeah, really enjoyed this. Really easy read. It's not that big either, so if you want to watch a TV series, you could try, but I can already tell it was very different to the book, so I would always rate this every time. We're really getting through these. Next is another one from my Kindle. It is Limelight by Daisy Buchanan. In fact, I actually went to see her at the Yard earlier this week, and she was pretty awesome. I got one of my books signed, which is this one right here, Insatiable, which I am yet to read, but she was just really funny, really witty, because I don't know too much about her. I've read 2 of her books, Careering and this one, Limelight. This one deals mainly with sisterhood, feminism, and sexuality. It follows Frankie and her sister Bean. Frankie is a bit lost. She's kind of just like going about her life. And then there's Bean, her sister, her older sister, who seems to just have her shit together. And she's got 2 kids, she's got her husband, and she's always been there to help Frankie. Until one day, tragedy strikes, Bean gets diagnosed with breast cancer, and Frankie just doesn't know what to do. She tries her best to help, and then she's having to deal with their mother, Alison, who they refer to as Alison, sadly. And I just love the way this deals with the relationships between the women and how Frankie tries to navigate that whilst dealing with her own issues in her life as well. There's an influencer I can't remember the name of. Basically, Alison has done something that means their story ends up in the newspaper. Meanwhile, Frankie's just trying to make a living on not OnlyFans, but should we say similar, and then this gets found out, and then it gets misconstrued in all the wrong places and wrong ways. And there's this other influencer, I guess, and she tries to help Frankie, but is all as it seems? I'm not too sure. But yeah, I just really love this. It's really funny, really witty. And yeah, I like the dynamic between all of the characters and how Frankie just comes of her own, should we say, at the end, kind of. I did prefer Careering to this book, and this one sounds really saucy. This one was like a true like Daisy Buchanan writing style, like really witty, get the punchlines in here and there at the right time. Yeah, it was a good one, good read. It kept me occupied on my commute. Down to my final one of January. This again I just didn't expect to read as quickly as I did. It's another London-based novel. It is Would I Lie to You by Ali-Afzal. Again, this has been sat on my shelf for a long time. I think I got this from The Works or Daunt Books. I can't remember. And this one is, like I said, it's London based, and it follows the cultural differences as well as the romance and other themes as well in this book. Like this book, it is packed where it follows, I need to get this right, Pfizer and her husband Tom, but mainly Pfizer as she's a little bit annoying, a little bit spoiled. So her husband Tom has just lost his job. I can't remember if it's in like finance or insurance or something like that, quite lucrative. So much so they get to live in Wimbledon. They've got 3 kids. Pfizer's had a nice life. She's a housewife, she's been mum, but now he's lost his job, they're losing everything, but she hasn't told him the whole truth. They had savings, £75,000 worth, but she's blown it. She's not told him, and she's just consistently lying to him. So would I lie to you? Yes, at the start, but then it seems things seem to spiral even more out of control from there. This is another one I really looked forward to reading. It was really easy to read, like really nicely written. And I like the whole cultural differences she highlights as well, as you understand, from someone who kind of gets outcast by this specific woman in this friendship group of the local mums, should we say, of her kids' schools. Because they're in private school, and then there's this one woman, I think her name's Julia, who clearly doesn't like her. She's quite racist as well. And then this all links back to Pfizer getting a job to support her family, but then she knows someone linked to said Julia. Then it's all from there as Pfizer continues to lie to Tom, and she tries to top up the money she's got, but then other things pop up as well, understandably. You've got people judging her as she tries to work at the local shop, but then she works in banking. All from there, I really like this. I was a bit like, oh, at the end, because it kind of turned, it wasn't wholly satisfying. But I did enjoy this. Like I said, I looked forward to reading this. Yeah, if you're looking for a London-based, I guess, cultural novel as well, this could be up your street. Really enjoyed this. So they're my books. Even though we were off to a slow start, it ended pretty good, and I managed to fit a lot in as well. But yeah, if you enjoyed this, please give it a thumbs up. I hope you enjoyed it. Sorry it's a bit late as well, it's mid-February, but yeah, I hope you enjoyed this, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Bye.